Ball argues there is a clash between the policies pushing performativity in schools and a teacher's values. Rita Pearson says, as teachers we listen to policy that makes no sense, and we teach anyway. However, Bax et al. Argue that teachers need to embrace changes in education. So do I embrace performativity, or keep teaching the way my values tell me? The fact is, I will start teaching in a time where performativity and data mark how good a teacher is. As such, I need to find a way to incorporate performativity into my own values in teaching. As a leader in the classroom, I am responsible for the progress of my pupils, and everything I do needs to focus on their learning. Chipton and Jones say I need to lead for learning, and to learn well, children need to be taught more than just facts. As such, I must ensure that I am developing the whole child, so I need to create a love of learning which Guy Claxton says must be fostered if a pupil's academic achievement is to be raised. Although the end result of all this focuses on a child's attainment of performativity, as a teacher I want my pupils to progress, and I want them to achieve. I believe that if I look at performativity as the end result of what I am doing in the classroom, I allow myself the freedom to teach in a way my values tell me. As such, using the values I believe are important in teaching, I can make an impact on my pupils, and I can develop the whole child without compromising performativity. According to Ettisberg, classroom leadership has two main purposes: create an orderly environment where pupils can engage in learning, and enhance pupils' social and moral growth. The key to these two purposes are the relationships between pupil and teacher. Rita Pearson puts this very simply: kids don't learn from people they don't like. This is especially important now, as the rise in performativity can cause us as teachers to concentrate on the academic progress of our pupils and lose track of other aspects. But, as Sanders et al. Found, securing good relationships with pupils can aid teachers in developing the whole child. So how can I develop good relationships with my pupils? Bax et al. Found that children rated instruction, humour, kindness and helpfulness as the top 4 characteristics that they believed made a good teacher. These are characteristics that I have tried to embody in my own practice, and during my second school experience, I was told that when I used humour, I had kept the pupils engaged with the lesson. This shows that not only are these characteristics desired by children, but they also have an impact on their learning. As such, this study demonstrated that primary school pupils' voices can and should be taken seriously. Robinson states that using pupil voice impacts on the sense of belonging children feel in school and how engaged they are in their learning. These are aspects that the Association for Supervision and Curriculum Development suggest are needed to help develop the whole child. So in creating relationships, I need to ensure I focus on the pupil voice. However, there are some arguments that pupil voice was born out of politics and is not founded in academia or teacher practice. They argue that pupil voice and subsequent personalised learning undermines subject disciplines. Even so, we cannot ignore the fact that as adults, we do not have the right to decide how our pupils learn best, and as a leader in the classroom, I need to ensure I value every pupil's ideas and views. As well as making an impact on the whole child, the relationships I have with my pupils can also help me to make an impact on their progress. One of the teaching standards that we must meet is to set high expectations of our pupils to help them achieve, but if I do not have a good relationship with them, they are much less likely to engage with my expectations. I also need to create good relationships with any teaching assistants I have in my classroom. Symes and Humphrey argue that collaboration between teachers and teaching assistants, and respect between teachers and teaching assistants, is crucial if they are to make an impact on pupil progress. It is also vital for teaching assistants to have access to expertise. As such, as a leader in my classroom, I need to ensure I am approachable and set aside time for my teaching assistants to communicate and ask me questions. However, Webster et al. Point out that few teaching assistants are paid to meet with teachers outside of the school day, so to facilitate collaboration and communication between myself and any teaching assistants, I must foster good relationships with them. As well as doing this to help teaching assistants make an impact on pupil progress, the relationships between teacher and teaching assistant can affect the development of the whole child. If pupils feel that there is tension between me and a teaching assistant, they may not see the classroom as a safe environment, and I will be unable to develop the whole child, as to do so pupils need to feel safe in school. As a leader in the classroom, I must lead by example. As a teacher, I am constantly reflecting and learning in order to progress my professional development, but I also need to do this for my pupils. In order to develop the whole child, my pupils must be engaged and ready to learn, so why should I expect this of them if I'm not prepared to learn myself? Coles argues that if pupils are to be creative, resilient, and change the way they think, as a teacher, I have to model it. It is also important that I am willing to admit I do not know something, or that I have gotten something wrong. In the culture of performativity, it can be stressful for pupils to admit that they do not know something. As such, Claxton argues that to make an impact on pupils, I must create an environment where they feel safe and confident to ask questions and admit they do not know or understand something. And that starts with me. Everything I do as a leader or otherwise in the classroom must be to aid my pupils' learning. I am responsible for my pupils' progression, so I must ensure they do not internalise negative ideas of learning, such as labelling themselves as a failure. So praise must be central to how I lead my class. However, I need to be careful with the amount of praise I use, as too much and pupils may think I have low expectations of them, and they may not succeed. As such, praise, though central to my leadership, must be used only when it will enhance a pupil's learning. To lead for learning, what I do must also impact on preparing pupils for their future lives. This is something that the national curriculum requires. So to make this impact, I believe I should combine praise with Claxton's idea of learning how to learn, using the natural learning ability of my pupils and teaching them how to expand on it. As such, I will teach a love of learning and help pupils to learn how to learn so they can pursue their own interests and desires into adult life. I have already briefly touched on some of the elements that the ASCD say are needed in order to develop the whole child, which are a healthy child who feels safe in school, a child who feels connected to school, and a child who is challenged and academically engaged. As a leader in the classroom, I must decide how I will develop the whole child. The first aspect is the healthy child. This is both mental and physical health, so there is a large well-being element to the development of the whole child. However, well-being is a hard concept to define, and if taught badly, it can have negative consequences. Even so, be it physical or mental, an unhealthy child is unlikely to learn in school. As such, as a leader, I need to allow my pupils to take charge of their own well-being and support them, as they will have a much better understanding of themselves than I will. Developing the whole child can also be done through spiritual, moral, social and cultural development. SMSC is also something that the national curriculum says schools must promote. As a religious education specialist, I am confident in implementing SMSC into my teaching, and as such I believe it is the best way for me to aid in the development of the whole child. Ode suggests that SMSC is best addressed through children making connections between their lives and the lives of others. As such, discussion between teacher and pupil must be an important part of my teaching practice. Sanders et al. Found that even in a culture of increasing performativity, teachers believed that though they were being told what to teach, they still felt they had the freedom in how they would teach. It is our methodologies and pedagogies in teaching that will make an impact and a difference in our pupils' lives. How I lead my classroom must always aid in pupils' learning and help develop a love of learning in my pupils. I must also lead by example and model the attitudes to learning I want my pupils to adopt to ensure I make an impact on their progress. Praise also has an impact on pupil learning, but I must ensure I only use it when it will positively affect pupil progress. Developing good relationships with my pupils and teaching assistants has an impact on pupil learning as well, but it also helps to create the right environment needed to develop the whole child. Finally, to further develop the whole child, I need to help them develop their well-being and make connections between their lives and the lives of others.